Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. We got a great lineup here with our usual crew. We've had a lot of great sports. We have some controversy that's out there. You've heard even, I think, somebody named Oprah is talking about some things. And I misspoke last week. This is show number 64 with our Pittsburgh Sportsline. And for all of you that are new to watching it, we do What's on Our Mind. And before we do that, I got to shout something out. Hey, Big Joe, I won't give your last name. Thanks for watching the show. But we do What's on Your Mind, and we're going to go and start. We have Smoking Jim Frazier, Chip the Prophet Hayner, and Big Mike Butera. So we're going to go right with him. What's on your mind?
Well, excuse me, thank you. As usual, I like to say hello to Joe right there, the guy. As usual, I like to say hello to all our fans out there, and I've been informed over the past X amount of weeks that we have a lot more than I just thought of, especially the two that are my groupies, Rick and Loretti in Frankfort, Illinois, and now I'm adding Big Jim in Lawrenceville. So hello to all those guys, plus all the other peoples. And what I wanted to ask tonight is, or what I wanted to go with in my first segment is, I don't want to tramp on anybody's toes, so I can go both ways tonight. Who wants to speak about?
We have to change this right now, folks. This is live TV, and we do What's on Your Mind. And as you can see, Mike's needs a little focus here. It's only What's on Your Mind now.
Well, yeah.
We'll revisit any point.
But I don't want to tramp on anybody's foot.
You know what? We all have shoes on here. It's fine.
So I can go Lance Armstrong.
How about you pick one topic?
Okay.
Pick one topic that you're really thinking about,
Basketball.
like right now. Okay.
Lance Armstrong. This is a mind boggler. I mean, us people in the media and in Celebrityville and all that jazz, there's a term called Q. And Q is like your likability, like Smoking Jim and Chip and the machine. And of course myself, we have this likability. Now there's two people in my lifetime that stand out that didn't have that. And one is Richard Milhouse Nixon. He just didn't have it, and he got himself into a big heap of trouble over the course of his career. And Lance Armstrong, I never just got into the likability of that guy. Now, granted, he's a superior athlete and all that jazz, but there's never been one time in my life when I thought he had credibility when he talked about why he didn't do steroids and all this jazz. And you know, here it comes with all this. What do you call it? He's confessing. He's confessing. Now, one of the things about this confession is that there's supposedly a possibility that he might face jail time because of the millions of dollars that were given to his team, sponsorship, and I think that was the U.S. Postal Service and all that jazz.
Yes.
Well, my question is, and this is to be revisited, is if he in fact is going to be facing jail time for steroid use and all that jazz, what about baseball and football players that have either been outed or admitted? Is there some possibility that a steroid user that cost his sponsorship and or his ball team, his team, is there jail time for anybody, everybody? And that will be up for discussion when we revisit.
And the next segment.
Holy cripes with the camera and this and that.
And
okay.
Which camera are we supposed to look at, Big
I have
Mike?
no
You're a
clue.
movie guy. So you have that intuition. Which one should we look at?
Joe, the great guy behind the camera, is bouncing back between cameras. I don't know. I'm just looking dead ahead and talking to you guys. So I just go dead ahead.
Here's what we're going to do. We're moving on to What's on Your Mind. Smoking Jim Frazier. Sorry for the delay on the camera issue, but Big Mike's an expert. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Al. I appreciate it. I wanted to give a shout out to Ty Miller, Brian Cook, legendary D. Thompson, for inviting me to be a guest on their television show called Champions Chase this past weekend. Had a great time. Championship Chase is a TV program that only comes on for 6 months during the Steeler football season. Although it was their last show of the year, although they did express interest in bringing me on full-time next season as a co-host. And you know, Chip, I don't mind picking up another check. And also they had a couple beautiful ladies on the show, Liz Costa and Michelle Noel. And you know, talking machine. I love to be around beautiful women. That's why I love hanging out with Aaron Ward. But speaking of guys that hit on girls, how about Chris Rainey of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just got cut for pimp slapping his girlfriend? Although, listen, I do not believe that any man should put their hand on a female, but even though I'm a big fan of Humphrey Bogart, who used to slap hundreds of women in his movie before kissing them and making love, but I really don't agree with the Steelers cutting Chris Rainey, and I'll tell you why. Here's a few things that I look at when you talk about these guys that get involved with drama with their girlfriend, baby mama drama or whatever. First of all, most police officers, and we're here in the great Bethel Park police offices right now, they hate going out on domestic situations because as soon as they handcuff the guy, boyfriend or husband, and take him away, here come the wife or girlfriend wanting to beat up the cops. And I've always said the first thing that you want to do is you want to see if they stay together. I say as soon as it happened, they'd be together the next day. The next day, she's out there, free Rainey, he didn't hit me, let him go. They're back together right now. Secondly, if you ever hear of a great basketball player named Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, early in his career, was married with children, and he also was a wife abuser. But Jason Kidd went and got counseling, and now through counseling, not only is Jason Kidd a Hall of Fame basketball player, but every day when he goes home, his goal is, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? So I think the Steeler organization should have, made sure that Rainey got some mandatory counseling. I tell you what, the young people today, it's all crazy. And I tell you what, and also a guy that runs a 4.240, you got to look at that. That's rarefied air. You look at a guy like Dwight Stone. Now, I don't know if Rainey would have ever been a consistently great offensive player, but he's a guy that could have got you a touchdown every year on kickoff returns, punt returns, could have caught a touchdown every year for you, could have ran. But I looked at him as a guy that could cover kickoffs very well. And Dwight Stone played 14 years in the National Football League because as the gunner on punts, he could get down the field before he could beat the punt down the field. He was right in the receiver's face. And I know Rainey can hit. Just ask his girlfriend.
Thanks, Smokin' Jim. We appreciate your insights. All right, Jim. He's too much. What's on your mind, Jim?
Well, thank you, Alan. What's on my mind, with the big news about, Lance Armstrong and his alleged interview with Oprah Winfrey. And I'm only going to touch on this briefly because I'm sure we'll get into this.
That's a two-parter you have.
Yeah, okay. I got a two-parter. But, I think this is just another disingenuous move on Lance Armstrong's fault. He's not coming clean and telling the whole truth. He's going to lead us all to believe that he was only a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't. Actually, considering the whole performance-enhancing drugs things, one of the interviews that I really enjoyed reading was an interview with Mark McGuire that was done in Sports Illustrated several months back. And Mark McGuire said that he had the discussion with his son. And he told his son about what he did, okay? And he let his son know that, yeah, your father did use performance-enhancing drugs, and it was wrong for me to do that, and I knew it was wrong for me to do it, and I did it anyhow. Now I have to live with the consequences of it. And he says that he has more respect for the Baseball Hall of Fame, that he's never, ever going to question it. He knows that he'll never get there. But you know what? He admitted that he did it, and that what he was doing was wrong, and he knew it was wrong. And he's the only one of these guys that I have any respect for, because all these other people are saying, well, I didn't know that I was using steroids, or I just, I was a half-hearted participant. I think it's a bunch of BS. But here's what's really kind of gets me going today. I read this afternoon. There is a basketball fan in the city of Miami that has filed a class action suit against the San Antonio Spurs. Now, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, the early part of the season, the San Antonio Spurs flew into Miami to play the Miami Heat. And because they'd played 4 games in 5 days, the head coach decided to send Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and some other stiff home to rest so that they did not start all their stars when they played the Miami Heat. Well, the San Antonio's backups played the Heat pretty evenly, and they only lost the game by 4 points. So this guy has filed a class action suit against the San Antonio Spurs, saying that somehow they wronged him by resting their players because he paid an exorbitant amount of money for his ticket, because he didn't buy it at the ticket office, he bought it off of a scalper, that he expected more for his dollar that he spent than what he got. He paid to see the Miami Heat play the San Antonio Spurs, and if memory serves me correctly, they played that night. The Miami Heat won. So what are you suing anybody for, and and where were you wrong? I think this is just ridiculous, and in the United States of America, you can file a lawsuit against anybody for anything. Stuff like this should be flushed down the toilet. That's what's on my mind.
Sue USA, sue USA.
You guys got some good catchphrases. I can't argue with you on that. You know I like to argue a little bit. I have to agree with you. And what's on my mind is Lance Armstrong. I'll save it. They stole most of my thunder here, so I say that once in a while. So we'll revisit that. But what's on my mind actually is the Pittsburgh Penguins. The season's going to start Saturday night, and there's a new club out there in Robinson. You can get in there free admission. They want you to bring some canned goods, and you can go watch the Penguins. And I was in the place smoking, Jim, believe it or not. And it's a fantastic venue. It's not completed yet. They got all kind of beautiful women that Smoking Jim would like being around. Maybe we'll have to go out there. Bring some canned goods, and we'll go out there and we'll watch some Penguin hockey. So you get those 22-cent canned goods that you have in the drawer there, and you bring them out, because I know you're not cooking. Okay, that's some inside info. But everybody should go out there. They can pack thousands of people in there. They got big screens everywhere, and this isn't an infomercial for them, because I don't really know who. I do know who owns it, a guy from Montour, but wow. I haven't met him yet, so we'll have to work on that, Smoking Jim. Maybe we can get a sponsor of the show there. So that's just some coming attractions. But what I wanted to do is we do a section, revisit what's on our mind, because all of us, whether we're thinking on the same thing, Lance Armstrong, we're going to bring up other questions. So we'll start it off with Big Mike. He had a question, and if you want to ask each of us, Big Mike, about the question you had since you were leading into that. Do you remember your question?
Yeah, about or
all. I'm just asking.
I wrote it down. How could I not remember it?
Oh, yes or no would be fine by me. For all of Mike's fans, I'm sorry to be abusing him mentally like this, but he's just asking for that tonight. So.
Yeah, I want it. Bring it on. Did you guys hear about the Terry Francona book that's coming out on January 22nd?
Yes, I read some excerpts from it this afternoon.
And it is harsh on the Boston Red Sox ownership. Is that John Henry Group? About how they have no interest in baseball.
He's a commodities trader, made millions and millions of dollars doing that.
And doesn't care about baseball.
What they're most interested in is protecting the brand, is what they're doing right now. And that's kind of what I think the Steelers did when they made Mr. Rainey go away, is that they feel that, now that the ambassador's back where he belongs in the CEO's chair, there's just not going to be any tolerance for any kind of thing. I think, let's find out what the facts were of the situation. And once you find out what the facts were, you act accordingly. But apparently they know something that we don't, because he didn't even get arraigned in front of the judge before they had already cut bait with him. And, violence against women can't be accepted. And, but, I mean, do we know really what really happened there? There's claims that he assaulted her. There's claims that he didn't assault her. There's claims that the people that lived next to the place that called 911 didn't like him. Was somebody trying to settle a vendetta against him? We just don't know what the facts are, and unfortunately, he put himself in the wrong kind of a situation because.
Well, two things.
Well, I can say one thing, Big Mike. I didn't read anything about the book yet.
Well, we know that. You've written more books and helped people write books than you've read. We know that. It's on the record now. Just check every video on that, please. But Big Mike, we got to go back to you. You had a question there.
For
all of us.
Is every sport somebody that's done, let's just say steroids, are they are they going to be susceptible to some sort of punishment like Lance Armstrong is supposedly
Let me jump
staring
in
down?
here
Go,
on
please.
this one,
Yeah.
Okay, because you got me at the edge of my seat.
Okay.
In sports, even though steroids were illegal in the country, they were not illegal in baseball and a lot of other sports. And if they didn't have rules against it, like the vitamins that teams were taking in the 70s, and I've said that a few times, and
Vitamins.
you don't realize, but they were taking vitamins that all of a sudden they didn't have to wear their sleeves on their jerseys, and they were blown up like crazy, and they worked at the Redwood Hotel out in Washington, PA, and showed people how they pumped the iron. You know, I saw guys pumping 400 pounds a dozen times each time. It was quite impressive. And that was in the 70s on just vitamins. But when there aren't rules against it, then to me, you can't punish that player or sue him. Morally, it's wrong, and against our own federal government, it's wrong. But the sport didn't have any rules against
No,
it.
but
Well,
obtaining
here's
it,
what the thing-
that
here's what
Greg,
the guys
what's
that
that
are
guy
running
that went to
into
jail
problems
for
with.
Barry Bonds, his
No,
trainer?
Here's what the problem is with these people that did it. Not the fact that they used the performance-enhancing drugs. They all had an opportunity back when the Mitchell report that came out to tell the truth, and they didn't. What they're getting in trouble for is for lying under oath. That's where they're running into trouble. And should they be punished for that? Yes. If you're going to punish people for that, then they should be. They're not per se. If they would have just said, you know what? Yes, I used them. I cheated. I know I cheated. You know what? Big no story at all. But no, we lie. We're arrogant. We tear people down that have made accusations, which it's turning out that the accusations are true in most cases. But now they can't tell the truth now, because if they do, there's
They
recourse.
perjure themselves.
They recourse.
However,
And the other thing on that point, Barry Bonds, they caught him on lying, and he got 30 days house arrest in a mansion. So that's the penalty he got.
but
Because he was wrong.
Well, okay,
and he lied.
but when a drug dealer's on the street corner,
Hold on. We're still talking sports.
oh yeah, I'm just I want to do an analogy.
Is that one of the ones that had all the marijuana in the trunk when they were in the Cowboys? And
I don't know. I
stuff? And-
can't remember. I was hungry at the
or,
time, but
what did we have? A Morris guy that was selling it out of his trunk
That
too.
was for personal use.
Yeah, medicinal too.
7 pounds.
Okay, and now your question is.
the guy, an analogy: a guy that sells drugs on a street corner, he can get busted as well as the guy that buys the drugs. So, is that correct or incorrect?
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
Okay,
have
well,
officers right across
when
the
it-
hall. You can go have that discussion.
I'm speaking from
Experience.
Well, yeah, I've got a badge, you know that. But
I know,
but
you
but
just got
the
in.
and Chip, I appreciate your comment about all they did was lie. But in fact, they obtained a substance that was not substance. They obtained something that was illegal.
In
Wasn't
a lot of cases, the people that were supplying them have already faced
Barry Bonds guy? What's that guy's name? Who went to jail for months?
Brian Anderson.
Yeah,
yeah, because Barry
His
paid him
trainer.
to be quiet.
Yeah. However, yeah, but
He couldn't be convicted because they couldn't get him to testify. They told him he'd stay in jail, and Barry just keeps writing the checks. His check's going to have a lot of zeros at the end of it when he gets out. And if
he
it
still
doesn't,
in?
boy, I'll tell you what, he's going to tell all book, and he'll become a millionaire one way or the other.
see if you guys would have allowed me to go the other way initially,
Well,
I
one way.
I would have talked
That's
about
how we roll.
Okay,
Okay.
So
that was my.
Did that answer did Chip and I double team you on that? And you okay with that
Because
answer?
I'm still confused. If a guy that sells or gets the stuff, which is illegal to purchase, although it wasn't illegal for
yeah,
baseball,
most of those people have been already arrested.
Yeah,
And
well, the
served
guy
time.
that-
They're
the-
guilty.
the
They're guilty. Those
and
people are guilty. The athletes are not guilty. They didn't know any better. And whatever they were taking, they thought were vitamins or some other type of health product. So how can you convict them because they don't have an education, even though they've graduated magna cum laude and stuff?
well, I was trying to
trying to help
compare it to the Armstrong thing, and I read in the paper today that he might be facing.
He has a little
Well,
different case.
he's got a lot of issues to worry about, and you know what? And he'll have an interesting next few years, and he'll spend more time in and out of court briefings than he will doing
San Antonio
any kind of
mansions,
PR work
yeah.
or anything like that. But I guess that's good training for triathlons.
Good point. And with Lance Armstrong, he did work for the United States Postal Service, like you were saying. So we all paid for him to cheat.
I pay
everybody
my
else.
bills electronically, so I'm done with although nothing against the
So-
Postal Service.
So let's get off the national spotlight for a minute. We still have some sports going on here in town. The Penguins are in training camp.
Hold on, wait, before we get too fast. I got my new format, buddy. We didn't
right.
revisit that on here. We got all those coming up, buddy. We'll cover you. But I got to get your time in, and we got to get your trivia time, but we got to get the fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac. He always gives us these great insights, so we have a special segment for him. And we got Chip's special segment because it's trivia time. I love it. And Big Mike, me and you are on the sidelines, buddy, so we'll just take a little hiatus here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Smokin'
Well, I'll
Jim.
be real quick because I want to get in some Penguin talk too. But 1994, we're going to revisit. I was on the college campus of the University of Tennessee. Back then, I'm not sure if it's still the same, but all the players for Tennessee University used to stay in the stadium. The dorms was in the stadium, meals was in the stadium, workouts was in the stadium, and they had a freshman quarterback that everybody was raving about by the name of Peyton Manning.
Whoa.
But I heard that Elkhorn State's Heisman Trophy candidate Steve Ear McNair was also playing in that state, so I drove along to go see the game. Steve Ear McNair that day put up 600 yards passing, 8 touchdowns. He ran for another 150 yards and 2 more touchdowns. And I walked around the stadium and I kept asking everybody, who's number 80, a wide receiver for the opposing team? I'm like, who's number 80? They said, who cares? Look at Steve McNair. Number 80 was a junior wide receiver for Tennessee Chattanooga. He went by the name of Terrell Owens. Now he's known as T.O., a junior wide receiver. I wrote every general manager in the National Football League. I says, I guarantee this kid will be a superstar in the National Football League. Everybody ignored me except for San Francisco 49ers. They drafted Terrell Owens in the 7th round only because they didn't need him. They still had Jerry Rice in his prime and no heart 6'6" J.J. Stokes, who Bill Romanowski spit a honker in his face mask on Monday Night Football, and it's still dripping for all to see. It only took Terrell Owens 3 weeks to beat out former first-round draft choice J.J. Stokes, and the rest is history. If somebody would have took my advice on T.O., they'd be 150 touchdowns richer right now.
Wow. I think they might have won some more games.
Oh, yeah.
Smokin' Jim, thanks for your insights. That's why we'll do this collection of fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac. And now we come to one of the things that I'm most interested in is Chip's trivia time. And he knows I'm sarcastic, but I actually believe this because I like trivia and I like the insights that you have. So lay something on us.
Lay something on us. I did some research over the last week, and the number of baseballs used in an average Major League Baseball game is 276. Wow. 276 baseballs used in an average 9-inning baseball game.
Wow. And who makes the baseballs? Is it Spalding?
Spalding, Rawlings,
Right.
whatever. I haven't, for all the times I've sit on a PNC Park, you'd think they'd hit me a foul ball. No. You think a season ticket holder, they just throw you one every now and again. No, I haven't.
Chip, I got to tell you, I got a foul ball in a box at Three Rivers Stadium for Jones and Brown. I was in their box.
Okay.
And a ball come up there over my head in the box.
Did you dive?
No.
Okay.
I stood up, I turned around, and caught it on one bounce off the ground.
All right. Way to go, Al.
So, and I gave it to my nephew, Michael Thompson at the time. He was only a couple years old. He just had a birthday the other day, and he's like 32. So he got the baseball then. I forget who's playing and all the details. I had to fight his dad for it at the time, but I got the ball. So I did get one foul ball.
Okay, good for you. And then here's the one other useless piece of trivia this week, and I promise you next week, folks, I'll have some better tidbits. Looking at the Pitt football team wrapped up their season this year 6-7 instead of 7-6, and Tino Sinceri proved true to form. Went his entire career as a Pitt starting quarterback without one single come from behind victory. I knew Pitt was in, it was in the in a bad way 3 minutes into the game when we were down 7-0. But, Tino was also on the verge of, breaking a Pittsburgh or Pitt's Icons career passing record. Now, the top passer by yards passing, I believe, was Alex Van Pelt for the Pitt Panthers. But number 2 is somebody that, if you ever go to Canton, you might want to take a look up. His name is Danny Marino from down at Central Catholic. And Tino Sinceri was within striking distance of passing Dan's record. He came up 7 yards short. And, that was probably 2 completions with the way Tino throws, because I didn't see him throw a pass further than 3 yards.
I even had a negative passer,
That's
too.
just, that's my last shot. I mean, wish him the best in whatever endeavor he takes. Maybe, arena football might be your forte.
And who was the best man at Dan Marino's wedding? Sal Sinceri. Nice.
He does have a nice brother playing in Alabama.
Isn't Sal an assistant coach on the Alabama?
He was until this past year. He left Alabama to go to University of Tennessee.
Okay.
And so he's out of work.
And he left his one son
He's
in
out
Alabama.
of work now. Yeah.
So,
his son's a beast for Alabama.
I saw him
That
playing.
white guy love hitting brothers.
Hey, fellas, with the little format we have, I'm going to try to get us with the NFL, because I got crushed with that NFL picks this weekend here.
Wow.
Yeah, I took a beating.
I was 1-3.
You went away from hardballs?
I'm not a fan of the hardballs, and you can't bet with your heart either against or for people, and we know that because Smoking Jim is known to place a bet here and there. And I did lose, I think it's 6 houses now, but I won 7 back.
All right.
So he's still a winner in my book. But I wanted to touch on the NFL with some of the things that happened, from how do you, 30 seconds or so, you don't let Peyton Manning even take a shot, and a guy named Tebow beat us in the playoffs. Why did you get Peyton Manning if you don't let him throw? Sure, he threw an interception like he does in the playoffs, and sure, they lost the game. But before the end of the game, wouldn't you at least use your 2 timeouts and try to go down the field to get in field goal position? And I know you guys get fired up about some of this stuff, so let's carry on.
The calls at the end of that game by John Fox are questionable. In the immortal words of Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. I mean, I don't understand.
You don't sound like him, but I understand.
You get the gist of what I'm saying. I can't believe that Denver didn't try. They had 2 timeouts. They had, 21, 23 seconds or something like that. They could have completed a couple of passes. And Matt Prater, who's the kicker for the Denver Broncos, he could kick a 60-yard field goal. Now, granted, it was, 7 degrees out. Ball doesn't fly that well, but they were in Mile High City, okay?
5,280 feet.
I would have at least made the attempt on that. I mean, I just don't see, basically listening to the excuse that Fox and then John Elway made is that, well, after giving up a 70-yard touchdown pass with 30 seconds left, we were kind of in a state of shock. And I was like, you basically just admitted to me there that, you already lost the game. Right. So, okay, that play happens. You come back, you have time on the clock, you fight.
Oh, and aren't these guys professionals? I just want to know what the betting line was, Smoking Jim. That's what I want to know. We got to research that. Where was the money?
Where was 9 points? Ravens was getting 9.
But so it didn't matter on what they did, so they just went in the tank. What type of professionals aren't going to try to win? And you have Peyton Manning. Isn't he leading, I think, in NFL history with more comebacks than anybody in the fourth quarter or overtime?
Well, the one thing he is leading is 8 one-and-dones
right.
in the playoffs.
Well, that's a record also. That's a good record.
He also has the most career losses in playoff games in NFL history. Tom Brady passed Joe Montana for the most victories in the playoffs, and got to tip your hats to the job that Brady's done. But I'm looking at the scores of these games, and in two of the games, the teams that lost had scored 28 points. And it used to be, you would see, what the NFL is becoming is, it's almost like college football. They're scoring points like your pinball machines. You can't keep track of them. Whatever happened to defense? I think they're coming up with rules, and they're fining guys away from being able to play football the way that we've always seen them play. I mean, no, people are afraid to hit, and then.
Well, how about some of these phantom calls? What about the phantom calls?
The fouls that they call on interference, and the ones that they do call compared to the ones that they don't call, where's the consistency there? I mean, you see guys get mugged, and they say that's incidental contact, and you see a guy cough on somebody, and they're throwing a flag. I just don't get it.
We agree with you on that. It looks like, what were those, the referees earlier in the year that we were talking so much about?
Yeah.
So it seems like they just handed the same rule book to them. So I mean, that's what happened.
And that's another thing with the instant replay that bothers me, is that not only do they do these things and they don't get called, then you get shown in your face like 25 times in high definition and stop motion, and you're sitting there like, the ref's sitting there looking right at it, and you just get even more frustrated.
Well, at least it's not at the Cowboy Stadium on their screen. That's the one good thing about that.
Yeah, well, as long as, now that you mentioned the Cowboys, as long as Jerry Jones still keeps himself as the general manager of that team, I don't think watching anything on Cowboy Stadium screen is going to happen in January. So, Jerry's doing a nice job, and he needs to just keep it rolling. I think what he do, he hired Monty Kiffin now as his, and the last place that Monty Kiffin was at University of Southern Cal. That's that's the professional team they have in Los Angeles, and they weren't very good the last 2 years either. So. Jerry's got another puppet in there. He's got Jason Garrett on this hand. He can have Monty Kiffin on this hand. He can be the GM, the coach, the offensive and defensive coordinator.
Well, he's been a puppet master down there. Anybody else have, Big Mike, you've been quiet during this session. You have anything on the NFL you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, sure.
Before we move on?
The fella. Is that a segue for me to move into something else? Because I got some. Chip, the fellow that's suing who's he suing?
The San Antonio Spurs.
I wonder if he's a hockey fan, because there's going to be 48 Penguin games in 99 days. I wonder how many times they're going to be sending home the troops to rest up, because...
Well, here's the thing that I got that gets me. Apparently this guy's an attorney, and here's the thing. If he's complaining because he spent so much on the tickets and he didn't get his return on them, then maybe he's just not making enough money. He's not as big he ain't rolling as big as he thinks he is, He
doesn't get money unless he gets money from whatever.
Or maybe, here's what I'm thinking, being I do some marketing and things like that, he just wants some attention. Just like when certain people talk about writers, they have nothing. Sports writers don't have anything to write about. When you buy into the controversy that they create, then you're giving them attention. Then all of a sudden they have a name out there, and that's what happens. But I want to go to baseball right now, since we touched on it a little bit. And, with the Hall of Fame, years past, before my shampoo's not working and keeping the color consistent here, they would call me Mike Piazza. Matter of fact, at Nicholas Coffee, the owner still calls me Mike to this day.
Awesome.
And he's a young guy. And I said, yeah, it's a shame I didn't get in the Hall of Fame. Because
Magic Mike is back.
In spirit. Spirit in the sky here. You got to give a shout out to when it makes sense. And I like those little, tidbits there. But what do you guys think about the Hall of Fame? We talked about it on the show, and nobody did get in this time.
Well, let me, because normally I say shame on you, Pittsburgh Pirate ownership.
Oh, we're not talking Pirates.
Let me roll, because I'm going shame on you, Hall of Fame system, the way they choose and not choose players. Because, number one, Craig Biggio, the Houston Astros, got the magic number. Although he played with Bagwell, his name, I don't see how he factors into steroids. How he did not get voted into the Hall of Fame, to me, is kind of disgusting. And when I say the system, there's no clear-cut criteria for getting into the Hall of Fame. I think that the election process with 600-some voters is ridiculous. Some of those voters, I don't know for certain, but I certainly think that some have never seen a Major League Baseball game. All you have to do is be a beat writer for 10 years for sports. And if you go to, now let's pick out any small city in the United States, that has 2 pages of sports page, and most of it is local high school and college covered. Well, there's one guy that's going to write a little snippet of baseball in addition to the scores, and if he has 10 years of service, he's a member of the BBW, whatever it is, and he becomes an eligible voter for the Hall of Fame. And I think it's just a really shameful process, because not only do I think Biggio deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, I personally believe that the people that didn't test positive for steroids, and maybe they should be in, maybe they shouldn't be in, but I guarantee the ones that just had like Bagwell, well, I'm not going to go into Clemens because I really like the guy, and he's never been tested for, just accused of. I think all those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. The system is just poor.
Well, and I respect your opinion, Mike. I don't agree with it at all.
I don't agree with
just
some of my
quite frankly,
opinions.
I think the Hall of Fame got it right this time. I don't think most of the people that got omitted from the Hall of Fame should ever be considered for the Hall of Fame. But I do believe that Craig Biggio will be voted into the Hall of Fame. I would expect somebody with 3,000 hits would be an automatic, but apparently, I'm incorrect. I think Jack Morris is every bit as deserving as of being in the Hall of Fame, and those were the two that really came the closest. And I think their candidacy is going to be hurt a little bit by next year, because theoretically, we've got 2 first ballot Hall of Famers going in as pitchers next year. You got Greg Maddux, you got Tom Glavine. Both of them pitched for the Atlanta Braves. Both of them have over 300 games. Greg Maddux, I believe 355 or maybe 360. Greg Maddux was just an incredible
and that's wins,
pitcher.
Folks. You said games, but wins.
Wins.
Yes.
Now, here's an interesting and useless statistic that
Here comes some trivia from my man here.
Reading about how amazing that Greg Maddux was of a pitcher. This guy was very unassuming. Most people thought that he was like a librarian or a dentist or something like that, But I mean, the guy could go out there and had absolute command of every pitch he threw. In the last season that he pitched, he had 4 games left to pitch. He had thrown 999 walks in his entire career, okay, which is the least amount of walks per innings pitched of anybody in Major League history. He finished his career with only giving up 999 walks, and somebody asked him about that. He told them with 4 games left. They said, "You're at 999 walks." He goes, "There will not be a 1,000th." He pitched 4 more games, didn't walk a batter.
Well, see, that
is Hall of Fame.
That is.
That's not trivial. That's awesome. So you still have to come back with something trivial next week. That's just an amazing statistic, and Sure
I think
is.
Greg Maddux has just got to be like one of the best pitchers of our era. I always felt that way about Roger Clemens, and my opinion of him has changed. But Greg Maddux, deserves all the accolades, and he'll definitely go in first ballot next year. Right. But that could hurt people like Biggio, who was on the borderline this year, and Jack Morris. And Jack Morris, in my book, he won 2 World Series titles, one with the Tigers in '84, and in '91, that 7th game he pitched against Atlanta for the Minnesota Twins is one of the best games I ever saw. Pitched 10 innings, and he shut the door on them.
That proves my point that the criteria is non-existent, because what is the criteria? Kurt Schilling, he got 38% of the Hall of Fame votes based upon his postseason postseason performance. They say he was a great postseason performer with ketchup on his sock, etc.
His sock's in the Hall of Fame, though.
He won 216 games. Now, that's not the magic number, but if he's considered a Hall of Famer, then what is the criteria? That's why I'm saying that the selection system is...
We're going to research that, because we're going to find out what the baseball
because you got the same thing going on in each of the professional sports. Like, for example, they came down to the final 17 for the NFL Hall of Fame this year. 17. Jerome Bettis is up for consideration. He's one of the finalists again. Kevin Green's a finalist, and I think that's funny that Kevin Green was a hell of a linebacker for all of the teams he played for. He spent a few years here and became
leading sacker.
Pittsburgh's own. You play linebacker the way he played the linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're always going to be loved in his town. But you got guys like you got Chris Carter. Now here's a guy. If you look at the statistics that he put up in his professional career, touchdowns, catches, yards, length of the career. He pissed off some pretty important sports writers, and they're keeping him out, for whatever reason. And it's a personal thing, but that's just the way it rolls. That's part of the system.
What do you think, Smoking Jim?
Well,
with this criteria thing.
Well, just to piggyback on Chip. One of my favorite all-time football players is Kevin Green. I mean, the guy was awesome at Auburn. But if people really don't realize that Kevin Green played on the opposite side of the field where you should be getting sacks, and he is right now the leading sack getter of all linebackers who ever played the game. He got more sacks than Lawrence Taylor. Only two people that got more sacks than him is Bruce Smith and Reggie White, and of course, if you go by Deacon Jones, his keeps going up.
Every year it gets more.
He's the number one linebacker for sacks, and he did it on the side that you're not supposed to get sacks. He should be in even ahead of Chris Carter.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, but okay, here's the next question. If you're Kevin Green, whose jersey you wearing to get elected into the hall? I want to see him in a Steelers jersey.
They go in a suit and a tie.
No, they pick the jersey that goes in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you got to go in.
As far as you're right.
The suit and ties, how you dress.
Suit and tie,
I thought their plaque reflect. Baseball, you go in with a hat. Football, I thought it's just a jacket. They show your bust in a jacket or something like that.
But it's the team. You designate what.
Oh, you
team.
do designate a team.
Yeah.
Well, how can he? So he can choose a team because in baseball, they tell you what team you're wearing in.
Well, since we're running all over the place, I got to take charge again. We're going to Penguins right now because Smoking Jim wanted to talk Penguins, so we're going there.
Okay, tomorrow night at the console
Thanks,
the
Smoking.
Penguins are having an open scrimmage. It's free to the fans. Anybody wants to go out and see them. But what they're doing is they're bringing in a bunch of the kids from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Okay. Because what they're doing is they split up the team and no order or anything. They just said, okay, you're on this side, you're on this side, you're on this side, and they're going to play a scrimmage against one another, and they're going to mimic game situations, and it's going to be like a full blown scrimmage. Because they start playing on Sunday, and Sunday we've got
Saturday night.
Or Saturday
night.
The hated Flyers. Yeah.
What's going to be the hitting situation at tomorrow's game? Or Thursday's game.
Don't concuss Sid.
Yeah.
Other than that, it does not matter.
So it is.
I don't know if they've worked this out.
I'm serious.
I know in the NFLPA and in the NFL that they're not allowed to have as many practices as pads on now. Okay, so they limit that. I don't know if they're doing that in hockey, but if I was the coach, I'd want to get guys in there banging each other because, it starts for real in a couple of days.
Right.
And here's the thing with the way this hockey season's going to go. I think the Penguins have positioned themselves very well by picking up Volkun as a backup netminder, because they're Volkun. You get me then. No, but I'll tell you the reason why that was a brilliant move, because Volkun is a number one goaltender. Okay, and Marc-Andre Fleury is the number one goaltender, and they're going to be playing weeks where they're going to be playing sometimes
Chip,
5 games in a week.
I got to interrupt you because do you think there's a conspiracy that they knew that there'd be a strike this long, and with the backup goaltender by what's his name, Smoking Jim? Think about it. Normally, they'd let Fleury go the whole season. I'm starting to wonder conspiracy now.
No, there's no conspiracy involved. I think it's a brilliant move by
No, it's
Ray
brilliant.
Shero.
I agree, but maybe he knew something. I'm just thinking there.
Okay. So anyhow, the Penguins have got the two netminders that they're going to need because they're going to be playing 4 and 5 games in a week.
Right.
Okay. The season's going to be condensed. They burned out Marc-Andre Fleury last year. We talked about this on the show a number of times last year. Going down the stretch, I kept on saying, Fleury's playing too much, and then look what ended up happening. We ended up losing to the Flyers and kind of bad.
They owned us.
But, there's already talk on the radios about Dan Bylsma and how long he's going to be coach of the Penguins because people are saying that if he doesn't go deep in the playoffs this year and has another early exit, it may be time to find somebody else to take over because I can tell you right now, you've got the two best players in the world skating on your team. You need to be putting Stanley Cups on the shelf. You know what I mean? These early exits from the playoffs. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Crosby does. I think he's just going to light up the goal lamp like you've never seen before. He's going to reestablish his emergence as number one player. And Evgeny Malkin, right now, he's in mid-season form. He's been playing the whole time that everyone else was off. He's been playing games, three of them a week. So I think he's ready to rock and roll.
Just so he doesn't get tired, like he says. He's tired. So this year he won't be. He can start having another good season. And I think it'll just be a sprint because it's 48 games like we talked about. And coaches do get fired. Look at how Bausma got in towards the end of the season when we thought we were out of it. And they have a short leash on them. They're under 4 years. I think an average NHL coach lasts 4 years. And that's amazing with some of the Hall of Fame coaches you have and everything else. But that's all the time that they get, about 4 years. So Bausma's going to be approaching that. If he's one and done, he'll be gone. There's no doubt. Even though he's a good community guy and they love him and all that stuff, McMillan just come out the other day and was saying what a great man Bausma is for the community. Well, they need to win some games too.
Well, and I think what's really important about this shortened season is they got to get out the door real fast. They have to. They got to come out and win 3 or 4 in a row. They can't afford to lose 3 or 4 in a row because it's really going to be, they'll really be scrambling at that point.
I'm reading Smokin's messages on his text messages, and here's what it said: the plus for the Penguins is the fact that they're basically a young team, meaning they're not an old team. An old team's going to run down out of gas this year because it is, as you guys said, a sprint. But here's what's not in the Penguins' favor: is Sidney Crosby is one hit away from going on the shelf again. And I also think that the Penguins will burn themselves out by trying to be speed demons like the game that they play, and I just don't see them. Okay, here's a thing. Here's a thing that I got some stats on the Las Vegas odds for the NHL this year. The Rangers are 8-1, as are the Penguins. The Kings are 9-1. The Canucks are 10-1. The Blackhawks, the Red Wings, the Bruins, the Flyers. To me, it's just going to be a crapshoot because it's a shortened season. Because all the games are going to be played back to back, and all the games are going to be crunched and condensed. I think even the Ottawa Senators and who's at the bottom of the run, the Baltimore Ravens. That can't be right. The Columbus Blue Jackets can be in the hunt. Yeah.
They're
Thanks for those stats.
But I think we lost badly to the Flyers in last spring's playoffs, and that's particularly bitter for any Penguin fan to watch the Penguins lose, but more importantly, lose to the Philadelphia Flyers. So we're coming back against the Flyers. So I'm expecting, the enthusiasm to be there, everybody to be on their end. What I want to see the Penguins do is what do they do in games 2, 3, and 4? Because, you've got that big emotional thing at the beginning. Is there going to be a drop-off? You're going to show up one night and not show up the next. That's Pittsburgh teams can do that.
Well, let's see what happens. Time will tell. And I'm one of those guys that I like to see the tough competition right up front. So seeing the Flyers right off the bat, that's a good thing. I want to go now to another thing. We always talk like Pitt sports. We touched on some football. What do you guys think about Pitt basketball this year? Can they make the NCAA tournament? Or are they just had so many easy teams early that they're not going to be much in the Big East this year?
Well, they played a very good game and beat the snot out of Georgetown in D.C., okay? And then they laid an egg on Saturday against Marquette. But
what's the common thread there, though?
The thing that I don't get, the thing I don't get is which Pitt team are we going to see? The ranked teams that they've played, okay, they played well against one of them, and other games that they're in these games, and they're not winning games that they used to win, and again, it's that desire. You don't see anybody that the guy that's like, I'm going to go and get 20 boards tonight, and I don't care what happens. That somebody that just wants to be that aggressive. Everybody just sits there and lets themselves get pushed around.
Well, hold it. This might go to the coach, and I'm segueing the Smoking Jim Frazier on the coaching here. He's made a couple predictions in the past that maybe they're not all that, and part of it's the coaching.
Well, you know, Ben Howland was a genius, and Jamie is still, you know, getting on his coattail. And don't forget, Pitt hasn't had the recruits since some of their assistant coaches who used to recruit in New York and do a good job moved on, you know. But the thing that hurts Pitt is always going to hurt Pitt. It's going to really hurt them in the ACC. It's always going to hurt them in the NCAA tournament. Is they're the only team I've ever seen when I've studied Pitt over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, as long as Jamie Dixon's been there. They don't get any easy buckets. In college basketball and basketball period, you got to be able to get easy buckets. You got to be able to press those guys. You got to be able to steal the ball, get some layups. You can't live and die with the three, and that's Pitt's problem. They don't have really athletic guys. They really don't recruit that well. And when you come to the guys, teams like Marquette and teams like that that's very, very athletic, Pitt shows their deficiencies.
Well, you know where else they seem to struggle greatly, and this makes a big difference in games down the line, is they just don't sink for free throws. You know, I mean, they need to put down 9 of 10 of them. You know, and you see they get opportunities and they miss them, and you know that's the thing. I mean, you know, all the great basketball players you've ever seen, they get on the line, you knew what was going on. They knocked those down. You know?
Pitt's shooting 63% from the the free throw line this year. That's
what? I appreciate the intelligence you bring to the table.
No, I heard it on the way coming out.
Okay, well, I'm starting to appreciate it, but I think the Achilles heel is Trey Woodall. When he's not in the game, it does change the complexion of it, Smoking Jim. And that's what happens there. But I want to touch briefly on an area that Smoking Jim knows a lot about. That's high school sports. And he's talked about, I think, his hometown team out there, how good they're going to be. So I'd like to hear the boys and girls basketball teams.
Well, is that going to be Penn Hills or Monroeville? And he goes both ways.
We'll let him go.
Well, you know, everybody, you know, Gateway has gone to the WPIL finals back-to-back years and won them the last 2 years in a row. And everybody's saying that because they graduated everybody last year. I'm telling you, they got a coach out there, Mitch, that it does a great job. And I tell you what, he has the men's team playing very, very well. But everybody should look in this area a little bit, well, not in this area, but Shaler. Shaler has a guy, Geno Thorpe. We thought we got rid of him last year. We thought we sent him to go live with his daddy in another state. But
what happened?
He's back. He's a Division I prospect, very athletic, 6'4", 6'5", can do it all. Being recruited by everybody, so hopefully University of Pittsburgh or somebody else can land that guy, Geno Thorpe. If you get a chance to get out there and watch him, he's a special kid.
Well, a friend of ours from your show down in the north side, talking about, we had him on Pittsburgh Sportsline down on level 20, and he said to look out for the Newcastle team. And I'm going to tell you something.
Wow.
Newcastle's men's basketball team went up from AAA to Quad A this year, and they beat the snot out of North Allegheny the other night.
Wow.
Okay, so now they're the #1 ranked team, you know, right now in Quad A, and look for them to make some noise. You know, they've won, they've won everything that they could win in AAA, and they no mountains left for them to climb.
Well,
so they go up, they moved up, and then they beat the big dog on the block.
Wow.
Let's give some credit to Kelly Russell. He's a friend of
Kelly,
the show.
Yes, Kelly,
he's welcome back anytime.
Newcastle, absolutely.
He did our edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline at level 20. And by the way, we'll be there this Monday coming up. And that'll be Martin Luther King Day. So we'll be out there at level 20. So come on out to the show. I'm not sure who the guest host will be. It's always a mystery. But you'll see at least Smoking Jim, Chip Hayner, Al Levine, the Talking Machine, and Big Mike Butera. When he gets an invite by a certain individual, he shows up also. So we'll see what happens. And what I wanted to go to at the end, because all of us have things that are still on our mind. So I want to do some closing remarks from each of us, and I'm going to start with Big Mike. If you have something like a minute or so or less that you could bring up.
Oh, yeah, I thought we were going to do predictions tonight.
Well, we were, but we ran out of time here to try to do it. If you want to do predictions, let's do that.
Well, I think the Penguins are...
We're running out of time, folks. But no,
good talking to you.
No, go ahead.
Penguins, I love the Penguins. I mean, that's my second favorite sport. I think the Pens, because of what I said earlier, are going to probably be a bottom seed and go to the second round to save Dan's job, whom I happen to like. The Steelers are going to go 12-4, and they're going to the AFC Championship. The Pirates, I got bummed out when Liriano got bailed because I thought he was going to project them to be 40 games over 500 at the end of April. But other than that, I don't think they're going to. The ship's going to. It's going to be 21 again this year, folks. And that's my predictions for the season.
Well, thanks. And Smoking Jim, you can bring up predictions or whatever might be on your mind here, buddy.
The greatest player of all
I
time.
knew it. We almost
Ray
made it.
Lewis. Hey, you guys, anybody that watched Championship Chase last week, Ray Lewis did a promo for us.
Oh.
And I know if you've seen it. And
I
tell
saw
you what,
it.
Just because Ray Lewis did a promo, I'll probably give him a hometown discount when we negotiate my fee for next season. But I tell you what, Ray Lewis has a mediocre Baltimore Raven team playing above their heads. And I tell you what, everybody in the world wants to see the Hardball Bowl between Jim and John Harbaugh, Baltimore versus San Francisco, and the San Francisco 49ers, like I've been saying all along, will tie the Pittsburgh Steelers with 6 Lombardis in a few weeks.
Wow, thanks, Smoking Jim. And I'm not rooting for an all Harbaugh Bowl.
You're in the minority!
I don't mind being in the minority, brother. So there's no problem. Let's get the Chip. We got a minute or so for him, and he can get some stuff in here, whatever you want to do, Chip.
And I'd like to go ahead and put the kibosh on that one right there because my picks this fall for the NFL playoffs have just been atrocious. I was 1-3 last weekend. So I'm going to go and I'm going to pick both the Harbaughs to win. And that should just about guarantee that I won't see Ray Lewis again. I'm getting so sick of watching him cry and stomp and talk about how nobody's giving him a chance. Please, go away, Ray. We'll see you on ESPN. But
Chip, that's great. Just with that, how do you follow that one? I got to agree with them on picking that.
But no, I got to pick it. I got to pick the Falcons and the Patriots in the Super Bowl with the Falcons winning because I can't ever root for the Patriots to win. But if it comes to Harbaugh or the Patriots, geez, Belichick's the lesser of two evils.
I got to agree with Chip on that one. So I'll go with that. But I do want to tell you that I watched Smoking Jim Frazier on the Championship Chase, and I was going to DVR it, and I told everybody to, but I didn't realize he'd burn up the set. He was maybe on for 3.5 minutes, and they said how he was on fire, and it was quite the performance. Anybody that missed it, if they do play it again, watch it. It's definitely worth it. The promo is not worth it with Ray Lewis. It is not. It bothered me. I almost shut the thing off. But that's just me. I got a few predictions. You know, I got stuff going. Pirates, 21 years of losing. Pitt football, a winning season. Penguins, Stanley Cup champions. Pitt basketball, NCAA tournament. They won't have to pay to get into the tournament this year. Tiger Woods, I'm going to go with it again. He wins the Masters. Rory McIlroy got married. Everybody knows when you get married in golf, your game goes off the greens a little bit. Detroit Tigers, World Series.
Wow.
Just so you know, Tour de France, who cares?
Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong.
NBA, I'm looking at LA Clippers. Steelers, 10-6, breaks my heart. Atlanta in the Super Bowl. Folks, thanks for watching the show. We appreciate all you do. Everybody behind the scenes, Joe, Devin, Aaron, Big Mike Butera, Smoking Jim Frazier's all over the country. Chip the Prophet Hayner, no prophecies this week. Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Have a great night.